Hey guys, what's going on? So today I have an album review for DISGORGE with Forensic. Before I get started though, like I said in the last review from this band, if you're bothered by gore, because the album cover, you might as well leave now because you're going to be seeing it for the whole video. Anyways, now that I've given you a second to leave if that bothers you, this is the album cover. It's fucked up and it's crazy, and in my opinion it's one of the best gore covers probably ever, if not the best gore cover. But I feel like because of the cover being so damn fucking shocking and memorable, I feel like this album is a little bit overrated. There's not a lot of huge flaws with this album, I feel, but it's not perfect, and I feel like a lot of people give this album a reputation that I don't think it entirely deserves. But it is still a very good album, so we'll talk about that. But anyways, there's the cover. This is a cassette reissue done by Parasitic Records for like 2019 or 18, I want to say. But yeah. Looks sick. There's the spine. I believe the colors were a little more green looking on the original. You got the track listing. Pressed on a nice quality cassette. Red. Shows a J card before we start talking about the actual music. Got some more gore stuff here. Just thank yous and stuff like that. Credits. Really awesome band photo. I love this. Shit looks fucking terrifying. It's really cool. Something that's kind of neat on the track listing, it says like Exhibit A, Exhibit B. So it's got like a medical kind of thing going on, or like a forensic, like crime sort of thing. You know what I mean? Anyways, so with this album, DISGORGE Mexico, or DISGORGE. I don't know. I always call it DISGORGE Mexico because I'm just so used to referring to DISGORGE as the California DISGORGE. Anyways. They take the style from Forensic. They take out a lot of the more traditional death metal sort of elements in it. They take out a lot of the brutal death metal in it. They throw in more grind, and they make it a lot noisier and faster. Now, I think that this is a good album, but I feel like it kind of overstays its welcome, and it's something that, at least for me, I think that that's just a taste thing because I'm not the biggest grind guy. It's a little bit of a once in a while, every couple of weeks kind of listen for me. I like Chronic Corporate Infest a little more. I feel like Forensic does some things better than Chronic Corporate Infest, but overall I think it's a slightly weaker album. Production-wise, it's a lot noisier, but it's a lot thinner sounding. It's not very punchy. I feel like this album would sound amazing if the snare was a little bit louder, because the snare has this very hollow, kind of like boxy. I don't know how to explain it. It has a very boxy sort of sound. And I feel like if they made the snare a little louder, it would make the sound a lot punchier, similar to how the kick and the snare is really, the kicks and the snare are very loud on Chronic Corporate Infest. On here, it's a little lower in the mix, and sometimes it gets a little bit drowned out, but it's still pretty audible for the most part. The cymbals are a little noisy. The guitar tone I feel like could be a lot juicier sounding. The bass is basically inaudible, except for maybe a few parts in it. It's just okay bass. Vocals are quiet in the mix, but I don't really have that much of a problem with that. But it would be interesting to see if the vocals were louder. See, the thing with DISGORGE from Mexico is they put their vocals purposefully very low in the mix, and it creates this very insect-like, gross kind of sound, which I do really like. But it'd be interesting to see if they could add more to the wall of the sound with the vocals. I feel like this album has a very thin wall of sound that some other bands do better of this style of production. It's not the rawness that's my problem with it, it's just their execution of it. I feel like bands like Brodican, Viscera Infest especially, Devourment, Molested and Decapitated, even Heinous Killings, they take that sort of production style, but they make it satisfying to listen to, where it's produced shitty. Yeah, it's raw and disgusting sounding, but it's beefy sounding, or it has some sort of little quirk about it that sounds nice and like satisfying to listen to. This is mostly harsh on the ears, which all the other albums are, and like bands, their production style is harsh on the ears as much as this, but theirs just sound better. I don't know how to explain it. They're just more satisfying to listen to. This one, it lacks in visceral punch. I feel it sounds really cool. I mean, this album both metaphorically and literally musically sounds like a garbage disposal, like in your sink when you turn on it, you know, the like grinder thing. It's fucking disgusting sounding, but it's not the most satisfying thing in the world to listen to. I'm not saying that because, like, I'm not trying to sound like, oh, it's too extreme for me. I love shit like this ordinarily, and I do really like this album, but it's not the most satisfying thing to listen to. the drumming on this is probably one of the best parts of it, honestly. There's a lot of variety in the drums, and there's some kind of impressive drumming, a lot of really fast blast beats, a lot of really cool, almost jazzy at times, kind of fills, which I think are really impressive. The guitar work is okay. A lot of the time you can't make out the riffs, but if you listen really closely, they're there. And I feel like the riffs are stronger on Chronic Corporate Infest, but on here they're a lot more tremolo picked. I feel like there's some... Okay, on Chronic Corporate Infest, there's like some slower parts, some more doomy parts, which are really cool and add up some diversity to the music. They do that a little bit on here, and I think they do it even better on this album. The slower parts are a lot more interesting and less dry, but they don't do it as often on this album, and I feel like if they did, it would make this album a lot stronger. I feel like this album goes on for a little too long. It's almost 40 minutes long, and I feel like if this album were like around 20 or so minutes long, this would be one of like the best albums ever. But it overstays its welcome, so by the time you're about halfway through the album, you're kind of burnt out on, you know, the super harsh production style, because it becomes kind of overbearing after a little while. Because, you know, for the first half, you're like, wow, this sounds so fucking disgusting. Because this album, it quite literally is like the musical equivalent of a snuff film. It feels disgusting, it sounds scary. This album has atmosphere in fucking spades. It literally sounds like the album cover, which is one of the best parts of this album, in my opinion. It really sounds like you're being like killed by cartel members. I think this album has arguably an even stronger atmosphere than Chronic Corporate Infest. But the album drags on a little too long. Some of the songs start to blend in together a little bit towards the second half. The only song I really care about that much on the second half is Grimm's Fucks Warts, which, by the way, has a really cool sample of this like operatic, grandiose sort of thing, which if you listen to that while looking at this cover, it feels fucking disgusting and perverted, which I love. There's not as many samples on here as there are on Chronic Corporate Infest, which I both like and dislike. So I feel like it makes the songs blend in together a little more, but there's less time wasted with samples going on for too long, like how on Chronic Corporate Infest that's a little bit of a problem in my opinion. At least later through the album. I think the earlier samples on that album are, but I'm not talking about that album, we're talking about this one. This album is definitely lighter on the samples, and it's heavier on the music, but the music kind of blends together and gets a little overbearing after a while. If this album was like 20 minutes, just barely half an hour, I would probably like it more because I would get less sick of it. Because here's the thing is, when I throw on this album, the first half of it, I'm like absolutely jamming it, I love it. And then the second half, I just start to feel kind of burnt out and I want something more. These songs do have very interesting song structures, and every couple seconds they change up a rhythm or something, and it's very satisfying. I feel like if I listen to this all the time, it could become one of my favorite albums, but because of the unsatisfying production, I feel like this isn't something that I could ever see becoming like one of my favorite albums. Like I said, it goes on for a little too long. It's very extreme and it does that very well, because I do really enjoy this style, but I think that bands like I said, like Viscera Infest, in my opinion, take this super abrasive kind of gore grind style, and in fact they make it even more extreme, but the production just feels satisfying compared to this. It's a little juicier. This album is very dirty and disgusting, of course. It feels nasty, but it's not perfect. It's very novelty sort of listen for me, at least. I feel like a lot of brutal death metal bands do noisy, crazy shit like this a little better because there's a little more substance to it beyond the noisiness. There is substance to this beyond the noisiness, but it, like I said, it overstays its welcome in my opinion. But it's still a pretty good album. I think I would give this one, I don't want to say a 7.5. I think I would give this an 8. I do think it's a little bit overrated because people act like this is like the craziest album ever, and it is one of the most extreme things ever made musically. But it's not one of the best in my opinion. It is still very solid though. I would probably give it an 8 out of 10. Like a 7.9, I suppose. It is very good, and I would recommend it if you're a fan of gore grind or brutal death metal or just any really extreme, noisy, scary music. Because this is about as extreme as it gets in terms of death metal and grindcore, but I wouldn't say it's as good as it gets. It is good, but it's not great. But yeah, DISGORGE, Chronic Corporate Infest. You know, disgusting album. It's a fun listen once in a while. I think that's all I have to say about it, really. A good album. Anyways, that's it for this review, though. I hope you guys enjoyed. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you guys next time.